Miami won Game 2 in a blowout. Yes, they did. They soundly beat the Spurs 103-84. After a scattered first half by the Heat, the Spurs were just, quote, run over. As Manu Ginobili said in the presser, the Heat went on a 33-5 run in the second half. And look, we expected this series to be very tight. Both of you guys said, yeah, we think the Spurs will win in 7. But were you surprised by the blowout, Skip Bayless?
Miss Champion, Mr. Smith, yes. I was shell-shocked by what I saw during that 33-5 run. And I must admit publicly, I was extremely disappointed in my San Antonio Spurs. I did not see that coming. I thought this would be a close game. And guess what? With 3 minutes left in the third quarter, the Spurs were in perfect position, up 1 point. And I thought, well, here we go again. This is going to go to the wire. And from that point to the end of the third quarter, my Spurs committed 3 eyesore turnovers, 3 lousy, sloppy, unforced errors, very uncharacteristic of them, and they ignited the 33-5 run, during which they committed 6 total turnovers, 4 in the first game, 6 in that stretch right there. And Stephen A. Smith, I'm here to tell you, somewhere in that stretch early in the fourth quarter, my Spurs quit. They folded their tents and effectively and mentally said, we're going back to San Antonio, where obviously they have the next 3 games. This is what I've told you all year long I do not love about my Spurs. They pace themselves. They save themselves to a fault, because it is very dangerous, you know this, to hand that much momentum this early in the series to that team, the defending champion Miami Heat. So, as we all know, the big stat now, the 2-3-2 format, the winner of Game 3 wins the series 92.3% of the time. I'm going to say right here, right now, big advantage, Miami.
Wow.
First of all, let's break this down a couple of ways. Number one, I was not surprised by the Spurs losing Game 2. I thought they'd lose Game 2. I'm not surprised that Miami ran away with it. I am surprised at how lethal that runaway was. 33-5. I mean, that was an annihilation. The Spurs just got steamrolled. That I did not anticipate. I thought that the game would be close going to the middle of the fourth quarter, then ultimately Miami would pull away.
I agree.
And they'd win by 10 to 15 points. To lose the way that they lost last night sent a different vibe through this series. And here's why. The 2-3-2 format that you just alluded to, where Game 3's winner wins wins the series 92% of the times. I don't think that there's ever been a time where it's been more applicable than it is right now. The San Antonio Spurs have to win 2 of these 3 games in San Antonio to win a world championship.
Sure.
If they come back to Miami down 3-2,
no doubt,
it's over. They're not winning the championship. If Miami comes back home down 3-2, I don't believe they're winning, even though I believe their chances of overcoming that 3-2 deficit obviously is better than San Antonio's, because they will be at home as opposed to on the road.
I concur.
But while we're watching this, let's give credit where credit is due, and let's not just sit there and minimize San Antonio's effort and say they quit. There's something to be said for being a realist, for recognizing that this particular night just ain't your night. It's over. And I'm trying to tell you the kind of beat down that took place last night, from 3:11 left in the third quarter to about 7:13 left in the game. That was when that 33-5 run took place. That was an annihilation, man. That's kind of
12 out of 13 shots.
Listen. It's the kind of beat down that if you're a boxer and then you in the ring and you get beat like that, your family leaves the arena. They go back into the locker room. They don't want to see this beat down. You understand? Or the wife, as maybe Pacquiao, they're screaming and asking for people to help you. It's something along those lines, because what Eric Spoelstra has done, and I hope people take notice of this. This is a man that's been a head coach for the Miami for 5 years. He's won 66% of his games. And since the Big 3 era has arrived, he's won 72% of his games. This is a man that sat up there in Game 1. This is before Dwyane Wade re-aggravated his knee last night. In Game 1, he introduced a combination of Ray Allen and Mike Miller on the floor. Now, you got to remember, against the Pacers, they couldn't do all of that. They had to go big. They tried to be as big as they possibly could. San Antonio is not as physical, but they are big enough. And you would have thought that Miami would have done the same thing against San Antonio. They said no. They turned LeBron James not just into a point forward, but somebody who's a facilitator, who's a defender, and a rebounder. And then you couple him with guys like Mike Miller, Ray Allen, Mario Chalmers, and all of a sudden you're spreading the floor, and San Antonio seems ill-equipped to deal with that. So bottom line is what this comes down to is this. Before the series began, I told you, especially after speaking to Randy, LeBron's born all I'm talking about a chess match. It is a chess match. It is a chess match. And right now, it's every bit as even up here as it is in the terms of games. Greg Popovich got 22 years on Eric Spoelstra, but Eric Spoelstra knows a little bit about what he's doing because he's coaching his butt off thus far.
Well, he does have pretty good advice from on high, from
We
Pat
agree.
Riley,
We agree.
right?
We agree. But if we're going to lament what he doesn't do and get on him when he doesn't do it, and we ignore Pat Riley then we need to ignore Pat Riley now while this dude is doing the right things. That's all I'm saying.
Are you ready to switch your pick back
I'm not
to the
switching my pick. I'm not switching my pick.
Are you ready to switch
heck
your pick?
no.
Here's the reality. I'm going to go down with the ship. I don't care who wins personally, but you know I have an affinity for Miami and all things South Beach. The point that I'm trying to make to you, however, is that I thought that the San Antonio Spurs collectively, as a unit, was playing better than the Miami Heat were. But here's the thing about Miami. You got a lot of teams that hit hot spots and they get it going. You know, a quarter, a half, or whatever. Miami needs minutes. In the flash of 5 to 8 minutes, Miami could just eradicate what you've done over the other 40. These boys are lethal when they come at you. And San Antonio is going to have to respond. And my Lord, the APB is out on Manu Ginobili. I've called the police departments. I've asked them where he's at. We can't find him. He isn't missing in action. Somebody needs to find this man because he's not playing.
Where is he, Skip?
He's in a shooting slump. I said that going in. But he wasn't in a turnover slump. And last night, he was just out of it.
Yes.
Sometimes he has an out-of-it game. And I tweeted in the middle of the game, it's one of those games. For Manu, you just got to yank him and wait for the next one. Remember what Pop said when he hit the rainbow dagger that won double overtime game one?
Right.
Yes.
Remember what he said? I was ready to cut him on the spot, and then I was ready to cook him breakfast the next morning. Well, at some point in this series, you will be ready to cook him breakfast the next morning.
Skip, remember, everybody gets on Spoelstra, and they said, you know what, it's going to be a challenge for him to make these moves. What are you going to do? Well, guess what? Dwyane Wade was sitting on that bench with that run that the Miami Heat were on.
All the way.
And Dwyane Wade...
I don't know if he hurt his knee when Manu fell on his knee.
Even so, he's a consummate professional. The team is flowing. Dwyane Wade's not going to sweat that. Popovich is going to be challenged now because you have people who believe he will never veer away from Manu Ginobili. Well, guess what? You might have to a little bit. You might have to put a Matt Bonner in the game for a little bit longer. You may
I'm more let's veer away from Tiago Splitter.
What about the Juan Butler? What about Tracy McGrady?
No.
You know, what about it?
Juwan Blair,
What about it?
Speaking of Tiago Splitter, let's talk about signature moments of the series thus far. We may remember back in Game 1 when Tony Parker made that little jumper, 5 seconds left. Well, let's talk about Game 2, another signature moment involving